The United States government is complicit in genocide. You have an obligation to the Constitution of the United States. I'm a disabled veteran.
There's a genocide! There's a genocide! Stop!
You are all complicit in genocide.
You're complicit in a genocide! Eddie, there's a genocide, Eddie! We are being arrested right now for interrupting a foreign affairs hearing on nominations because the U.S. is complicit in genocide. They are complicit in the slaughter of babies.
When the United States Congress comes after veterans, they will come after you. Every American sitting at home right now needs to realize that you are paying for a genocide.
The United States of America did not begin with a revolution against tyranny, only to serve a foreign nation state. But the fact is, our government acts like the servant of another country. That other country is, of course, the State of Israel. That's not policy. That's a national disgrace. I'm Michael Rechtenwald, founder of the Anti-Zionist America Political Action Committee, or AZAPAC. Let's cut to the chase, shall we? The U.S. government has been hijacked by forces loyal to Israel. Does Congress represent us? No. With rare exceptions, they work for Israel. These aren't your elected reps, they're puppets.
My name is Anthony Aguilar. I am a combat wounded Army veteran. I served in the Special Forces. I served as a Green Beret to free the oppressed. And when I hung up my uniform 10 months ago, after 25 years of service, I didn't hang up my oath to our country. I'm running for U.S. Congress in North Carolina's 13th District. I am free from corporate influence, and I am aligned with humanity.
Yeah, baby, it's episode 70 of The Whiners on February 12th, 2026. Jeff Norman and Ryan Milton with you as we almost always are on Thursday nights. Our other co-host, Morgan, is out tonight, and we have someone who actually knows Morgan as our special guest tonight. Anthony Aguilar, who is a U.S. Army Lieutenant Colonel, retired, Green Beret, and he skyrocketed to some renown over the past few months after he spoke out about what's happening in Gaza. And now he has put his hat in the proverbial ring, running for United States Congress out of the great state of North Carolina. Tony, I don't know if you know this, but I live in North Carolina. I'm in Wilmington. That's not District 13, though, is it?
It's not. It's just a little too far east.
Well, if I contact your office after you're elected, will you help me out anyway?
I'll help any American.
All right, that's good. Well, we're very happy to have you with us, and we drink wine while we chat. I didn't mention that to you because you told me you were driving from one event to another, so I figured I would just skip that. But this is how we begin every show. I'm drinking a blend that I got at Trader Joe's for $7.99. I haven't had this in a long time, and it's always good to revisit with an old friend. How about you, Ryan? Are you enjoying anything tonight?
So tonight I'm not enjoying any wine. I just got a bottle of wine in the mail from a company I work with, and they said I'm not allowed to open it for about 4 years. So tonight I'm just going to drink tea in protest that they're making me wait so long.
All right. In other words, you're under the weather. You know
I'm
what?
under the weather. That's true. Yeah.
We're establishing a pattern because last week I was under the weather and I didn't drink last week either. But anyway, all right, enough of that. Tony, thanks for joining us. You know, I mentioned that you became somewhat of a public figure when you were speaking out about what's happening in Gaza. And now you're running to represent the constituents in North Carolina. And it made me think about why I would never run. Well, probably a few reasons, but one in particular is I'm kind of an idiot. And what I mean is there are certain issues that I'm very passionate about. And, you know, I know a few things about those. But when I look and hear and think about all the different issues that politicians have to deal with, it's their responsibility to be up on it. I'm like, oy vey, I could never do that. So my first question to you is, are you a guy who has always been up on all the different issues that you need to be up on, or are you now having to, you know, adapt a whole new work ethic and make sure you're up on it?
So I've always managed to keep myself pretty well informed. You know, while I was a cadet at West Point, one of the habits they drilled into us was every morning before your first formation, you'd have to wake up and memorize and be able to have a gentlemanly or a Socratic discourse in 3 major issues going on in the world every day, Monday through Sunday. So that kind of geared me into always keeping myself informed of current events and then continuing to look deeper. But to be honest, since I have experienced what I experienced in Gaza, and I have peeked behind the curtain of imperialism, I have gained a greater appreciation of diving deeper into issues at hand and not taking what legacy media might say, or not taking what pundits might say, but actually going to the source and reading about it and learning about it. And that's really opened my eyes to so many things that are happening in our country that are just absolutely wrong, constitutionally, morally, ethically, legally. So I took a long look in the mirror and I said, well, what are you going to do about it? Because you're not going to suffer from this. Your children will. So I'm stepping in because I'm not willing to walk up into the attic of life and pull up the ladder and say, I got mine. Hope y'all do well. I'm going to drop down into the trenches once again and do what I know how to do. And that's grind and work hard. And I'm not scared of hard work. And all legislation is hard work and working with people. So I'm ready to do that.
Tony, when you just said that now about what you saw in Gaza, my first thought was talking to veterans who fought in Iraq, who would talk about how they would be more than I guess the height of opium, poppy plants were higher than their head, and they would be walking in these fields that just went on as far as they could, and generally they were not allowed to burn them down. There were a few commanding officers that would order them to be destroyed, but I mean, certainly when you're seeing that firsthand, it's very different. Now, right now, one of the things that I think about is certainly a lot of people are pointing out about this is wrong with this administration, this is wrong with that administration, but nobody does take that step to say, okay, I'm going to run for office. Now, I've worked on some campaigns. My mother ran for Congress. She won a primary back some years ago when I was a teenager. So I definitely know what the work is to run a real campaign. The thing that I'm thinking about, and this is what I am thinking about with you, because you're military, you're West Point, I mean, that typically would speak to kind of a conservative base in one sense. But, you know, typically you would also say, well, talking about Gaza would be more liberal, except that now you have MAGA is very split. So that's one thing. How are you going to talk to all of these different kinds of people, especially under conditions where February 8th, 128 million Americans watched the Super Bowl. 57% of Americans were, gambling on the game, so for all the attention everybody supposedly pays to the big issues, people are pretty distracted. So how do you differentiate?
People are absolutely distracted, and that's part of why I wanted to become more involved in that. Until someone shows me some data where 60 to 65% of the American population shows up to vote, I'm not ready to throw in the towel and believe that we're done. We're doomed to this authoritarian rule. We're on the way there, but let's actually exercise our constitutional rights. We hear all the time freedom of speech, freedom, right to bear arms. All these constitutional liberties and rights that we cherish. Well, how about voting? How about you get out and you get to the voting booth and you vote on a candidate that you want to have, not on a party. We are at a turning point in history, or I should say an inflection point. We are at an inflection point in history where Americans are realizing that this two-party lie isn't the truth. Only choosing between the Democratic Party or the Republican Party is two sides of the same coin. And it is not a choice. It is a dilemma. You're picking the least bad of two bad. And it's time that we focus on candidates that stand for American values, realizing that that will not always align cleanly with any particular party alignment. Especially when you look at a Massey, when you look at a Marjorie Taylor Greene, when you look at on the Democratic side and you look at a Hakeem Jeffries, and he's aligned himself to everything that the worst in the Republican Party would also stand for with their alignment towards a foreign government. This is across party lines. It's time that we start focusing on candidates. And, what really inspires me to want to run and run not in the big two, so to speak, is polypartisan politics is how our country, how our federal republic, void of the strict two-party system, grew from our revolution till now. And that was, George Washington, our first president, ran unaffiliated. The Republican Party didn't exist until Abraham Lincoln ran. And when Abraham Lincoln ran in his second term, he didn't run as a Republican. He ran as a national unionist. The Democratic Party didn't even exist until the election of 1826 when Andrew Jackson ran against John Quincy Adams. And John Quincy Adams established a party that was called the Anti-Jackson Party to run as a party against him. And Jackson ran as a candidate, and he won. And it wasn't until Ulysses S. Grant, who ran as a Republican, that we went into this history of Republican and Democrat only. And since that time, we've had 19 Republican parties in the White House, and we've had 11 Democrat parties in the White House, or candidates or presidents. And I'll ask the country since then, where are we now? $38 trillion in debt.
I was a supporter of Ralph Nader when he ran for president, and one of the reasons was I believe very much what you just said. We have to break the duopoly. People used to say to him, "Well, it's not the right time," and he would always reply, "Well, it's never the right time." And so I was like, yes, let's get the ball rolling. But it doesn't seem like we made much progress in that regard, at least on the presidential level. Do you think there's a difference, at least in your particular district, that the mindset of the electorate might be more open to a Green Party candidate on a congressional level and the presidential level?
Yes, one, because of what both parties in our country right now are showing us, and to the point that you said, Ryan, a lot of people aren't paying attention, or distracted, I should say. But in the last few weeks, especially when you look at the Epstein files, if you look at Pam Bondi's testimony yesterday, which is an absolute travesty to democracy and to a constitutional republic, to have a secretary speaking to Congress that way, but reflecting the true nature of both the Republican and the Democratic Party. People are paying attention to that, and people are realizing we need something different. Right now in this election cycle, the midterms coming up, You've got Butch Ware running for governor in California. You got Greg Stoker, a fellow Army veteran, running for the Texas 31st. You got Michael Durbin running for the North Carolina District 2, right here in North Carolina, my neighboring district. You got me running in District 13. You got a Green Party candidate running for Senate. You got Green Party candidates running for the Carolina Senate or State Senate and commissioner and various positions. So we're really putting a lot of momentum into it, so it's not considered this spoiler party. We are an enhancement to the election, and especially right now in North Carolina. Last election cycle, when Matt Howe ran as a Green, the law was different. So when he was running as a Green, he had to petition to get onto the ballot, and he did. But then the Democratic Party tried to co-opt that ballot position back under as a Democrat and take him off the ballot. So he and the North Carolina Green Party then filed suit against the state of North Carolina, and they won that lawsuit. So now on the ballot, not a write-in, not a petition. I don't have to go get names. I am on the ballot. So
already, without petitioning.
Already.
Yeah.
Already on
Well,
the ballot.
because the Green Party qualifies. So are you
right.
saying that
Now
back
it does.
when Matt ran, the Green Party did not yet qualify for the ballot?
That's correct.
Right. So he had to get signatures because they hadn't yet done it. But since then,
He had to petition because the law was different. Going into the midterms, 2026, the law is different than it was ever before in terms of recognizing the Green Party as a North Carolina Green Party. So when people go to the poll, so right now the primaries are happening. I don't have to run in the primary because I'm the only Green Party candidate for District 13. So right now in the primaries, early election, and then on March 3rd, when voters go to the election booth and they open up their little book or go to their little machine, they'll see the Republican Party candidates. They'll see the Democratic Republican parties. They'll pick out of the primaries. We'll get one Republican, one Democrat, and come into the general. It'll be that Democrat, that Republican, and me. And they're going to have to go against me in the general.
So it's a stronger position for sure.
Yeah,
it is.
And you also
it's
have
a very strong
name
position.
You have a certain amount of name recognition because of your activism. I know that one of your positions is you want to get money out of politics. Easier said than done. But the point is, it's really more about the audience, let's say the electorate, knowing who you are, and usually you need money for that. But on the other hand, the public is very fragmented, so I'm not really sure how much name recognition you have. Do you think that you are well known in your district?
I do, not only because of my outspokenness for not only what I witnessed in Gaza, but since expanding that to general human rights in the military-industrial complex and American colonial imperialism around the globe. I've been outspoken against a lot of that lately, but also my district. If you consider the 8 counties that it includes, the majority of that population south of Raleigh, because my district now goes from the border of Virginia almost like straight down through the center, scooping down into Fort Bragg area. So 5 of those 8 counties are predominantly active duty or retired military. And I served in the military in special operations for 25 years right here at Fort Bragg. So I've lived in my district. I've served in my district. So I'm not an unknown going into this. And to that point about why do you need the money, name recognition, this and that? Well, I'll tell you, probably the primary opponent, the incumbent Republican in this district, going into this election cycle, people are becoming aware of AIPAC. People are becoming aware of foreign influence in our government, and people are tired of it. Well, the primary opponent for me, the incumbent Brad Knott, doesn't live in the district. He doesn't even live in this district. And he takes money from AIPAC, and he is an Israel first Republican. So standing up right there, I plan to address those talking points to show people. And the other thing is that, I don't think the average American that goes into politics does it with an eye towards getting rich or the Nancy Pelosi style of inside trading or whatever you want to call it. I don't think that an average American goes into that position with that mindset. What happens is you're running. Case in point, right here in North Carolina, and you get Raytheon come and says, "Hey, Fort Bragg, Raytheon's got a great partnership. It'd be really, really good if, someone like Raytheon backed you. And you're like, oh, okay. And then they do. And then sure enough, as soon as you get elected, first person knocking on your door is Raytheon. And they're saying, hey, we built this new widget and we want Fort Bragg to take it. Remember when we backed you? We want your support now. And you look at it and you're like, well, I don't think we should develop a thermobaric nuclear laser biobomb to drop on people. I don't think that's a good idea. And Raytheon's like, well, we own you. So you better back us on this thermo laser nuclear guided biobomb. And you're like, okay. And then more money starts coming in, and then you start running for reelection, and then you start running for election to get reelected, and then your whole time in office is just constantly to get reelected. And I can, from my perspective going in, I have no stocks and bonds. I do not trade in the NASDAQ. I do not trade in the Dow. I have no Roth IRA. I have no funds held in the government. There is not one interested party that's going to come to me, and any decision I make that's going to give me personal gain, nor, because I will not take money from the military industrial complex, I will not be beholden to a Raytheon or a General Dynamics or a whoever the vendor may be. And that's often what happens, is that when you're in for a penny, you're in for a pound. So I'm not even going to go in for a penny. I'm going to stay out of that.
What is the real risk? What is the real risk if somebody, like you say, is owned by a donor? What is the real risk of saying no? I mean, one thing I can think of is they'll give money to your opponent. Is there any other risk to it? Are they going to kill you?
They'll give money to your opponent. They will, if you're, not only that, money to your opponent, if you're seeking reelection, because of how nefarious and nepotistic the military industrial complex is, they can influence a lot of other people to not support you either. Yeah. But if you're constantly focused on reelection, then that's and the other thing that I bring to the table is that I'm not a youngster out of college who just finished law school that's looking to break my way into serving our country. I punched that ticket. 25 years. I've been shot. I've been wounded. I'm 100% totally and permanently disabled. I've sacrificed. I've punched that ticket. My life prior to going to Gaza was walking my dog, packing my son's lunch for school, watching the Golden Girls in the afternoon, and working part-time at Lowe's Home and Garden. Not looking for this. So
I would not have pegged you as a Golden Girls fan. That's astounding to me.
Oh, I'd love them. I'm on. I've watched all 27 seasons about 3 times now. So
they're pretty hilarious. Yeah.
You always learn a great lesson. You learn a great lesson every time. So
I recently went through all of MASH, and I was stunned.
Yes.
I was stunned how incredible that series is.
That's a great
Wasn't it
show,
so far ahead of its time in terms of like progressive thought with Radar and the guy
Klinger and the dress
Klinger.
Yeah.
So Klinger's the original troller.
Yeah, such a great show. See, I'm not surprised to hear you guys are fans of that, but geez, Golden Girls, I wouldn't have guessed.
No. Golden Girls are pretty funny.
We have a weird question. Maybe Ryan, you can help me figure it out. This is from Somerville John. He's one of our regulars. He lives in South Carolina. I don't know. Do we like to talk to anybody in South Carolina, or do we shun them?
I don't know. Let me piggyback off of this question, because what I was going to ask you is, as a Green Party candidate, is there still a party platform, or is this like you chart your own course?
There is a party platform, and when you think about it in terms of, if you were to lay out a Venn diagram and you were to show, okay, here's everything the Democrats stand for, here's everything the Republicans stand for, here's everything the Libertarians stand for, here's everything a Green Party candidate stands for, and you overlap all those things, what you will find is within all the parties, the core espoused values for the most part are the same. Where you find the difference on the fringe are areas where, even though you're party aligned, you can in a way chart your own course in terms of how important those particular issues or values are to your campaign and platform. I'll give you one. Like, a lot of people associate the Green Party to, well, if you're Green Party, then automatically you're Green New Deal. The Green New Deal
Yeah, or
was
anti-nuclear power, for example.
or
And
anti-nuclear power, or anti-capitalist, or anti-military, or anti-war, which I am anti-war. I am anti endless wars. I am actually pro. So I look at universal health care, universal housing, universal child care, or the ability to be educated and earn a degree without paying for the rest of your life. And people would say, that's so socialist. And I'm like, you know what? Those are values that Americans want, because if healthcare, housing, equal pay, all of those things weren't something that Americans valued, military recruiters wouldn't use those specific things to get recruits to join the military. Those are the exact tools they use to get a kid to join the army, because it's a value that we as Americans cherish, to think that in the pursuit of happiness, that you shouldn't be prevented from buying a house because even if you have a 50-year mortgage, you'll never afford it. You shouldn't be precluded from having health care because premiums are so high that you can't afford it.
On your website, you imply that you also want free childcare. You don't say it in those words, but you say childcare is an important issue. Do you mean free in the same way as healthcare?
Not necessarily free, but definitely scaled and affordable based on income, based on area, based on availability, based on choice. As an example, here in Harnett County, where I live and have raised my children, if I wanted to take my child because prior to him being of school age, my wife and I both worked. So to go into childcare would have been a very expensive endeavor, or one of us would have to make the choice of not working. Now, we couldn't make that choice because my wife was also active duty military. So both of us are active duty. So we had to rely on childcare. Now, it was very expensive, almost unaffordable for us for the amount of childcare that we needed without having to go the nanny route or have, the in-laws move in or something like that. So, but in North Carolina, in this county, in Harnett County, if you're active duty military, they subsidize that childcare down to a more affordable rate. Or, but then you have options. So if my wife and I wanted to send our son to the daycare in the county approved on this list, then we'd have that set price that's affordable for both of us, to where we can maintain our jobs and have our child cared for without having to choose one or the other. But if we decided, well, we want our child to go to this private child care place for this cost, well, then we make that choice out of pocket to do that. But that premium option is not the only option. There are other good options. And in Harnett County, that child care that's provided is very good. It was incredible. So I think that in this country, when we have Americans that work, the nuclear family is no longer mom stays at home. You have single parents, or you have parents in both of that family that have to work. That child care should be something that is ingrained in our society to care for our most important and our most vulnerable of society, our children.
Here's another question from somebody else from the audience. Maybe Ryan will allow this one to be addressed. What do you think, Anthony, about the Board of Peace? This person saw on Dropsite that Indonesia
I hope
is
you were
the
going to ask
first.
this one. Yeah.
All right.
The Board of Peace.
Well, let me just. I don't know.
He said he saw on Dropsite that Indonesia is the first country sending troops to Gaza, about 8,000. Morocco is going to be the second. Russia and China are not participating, I think.
All right. So are you or are you not bored of peace, Anthony? No.
I am bored of the Board of Peace, and the Board of Peace is nothing more than it is an imperial real estate venture lie to the American people. And here's what I'll tell you: the Board of Peace. The basis to the Board of Peace for the rebuilding of Gaza is called Project Sunrise. Project Sunrise is a $112 billion venture for real estate and rebuilding Gaza, which is why the buy-in for each country to be a part of this board was $1 billion per buy-in. What Indonesia is specifically talking about is their contribution to the international security force as part of the Board of Peace in phase 3. Phase 1 was return hostages or ceasefire, which never really came to fruition, but phase 1 was ceasefire. Phase 2 is return of hostages and reestablishment along the yellow line, and then go into phase 3, the introduction of an international security force. Israel is part of that board of peace, and Israel has shot down every offering to bring in troops from any other country besides either Israel or the United States. So we'll see how their offer is taken to provide troops to this international security force. I'm glad that they're stepping up. We will see if Israel will allow it. I don't think they will, because this is what I know to be a fact. Right now, UG Solutions, the private contract company that I worked for, is in the bid to win a contract to provide thousands of armed contractors into Gaza as part of the international security force. So because the Board of Peace is looking at private companies like UG Solutions and others, that leads me to believe that the international security force under this Board of Peace is not going to be a contribution of nations. It's going to be a contribution of corporate private security entities like what, the Blackwater of days of yore, or Triple Canopy, or now UG Solutions, or the like. That's happening. UG Solutions is actively recruiting right here in North Carolina out of Benson, thousands of recruits to go man the Rafah crossing and man southern Rafah for this Board of Peace. So I think what's likely going to happen is the international security force is going to be manned by private industry, corporate, private contractors. And what also concerns me about phase 4 and beyond in the rebuilding is that falls under Project Sunrise. Project Sunrise, developed by the Boston Consulting Group with a lot of input from Jared Kushner and a lot of input from Steve Witkoff and a lot of input from Netanyahu. Remember, Netanyahu's first job out of college was with the Boston Consulting Group. Netanyahu is a member of the board of the Boston Consulting Group. The Boston Consulting Group's plan for the reconstruction of Gaza was revealed in 2021. So if I live next door to my neighbor and I go there for 2 years every year and I say, I want to buy your house, and they say no. I want to buy your house, and they say no. I want to buy your house, and they say no. And so, I find a way to destroy their house because God promised it to me 3,000 years ago. And then I come in with a plan to how to rebuild your house. And I already wrote that plan to rebuild your house 2 years prior to me blowing up your house. Well, it's clear that I intended to blow up your house because I wanted your house to rebuild it because God promised it to me, or because I want to get rich, one of the two. It fits both narratives. So if you recall, there was an interview where Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff were both being interviewed, and Steve Witkoff says, oh yeah, Jared's had this plan in the table for the last 2 years. And Kushner almost, he was just like, you're not supposed to say that part out loud. Project Sunrise and the Boston Consulting Group's plan for Gaza was drafted in 2021. And the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation went into Gaza, particularly in the south, to seize land for where the first phase of this rebuild will happen. The first phase is going to happen exactly where GHF had their 3 distribution sites in the south. That's not a coincidence.
It's complicated.
I am anti-Board of Peace.
Okay. We have limited time. And by the way, Ryan, can you believe how not only is Tony making a lot of sense, but technically the picture is so good, the audio is so good. Anthony's
just good looking, Jeff. That's the thing. He's a good looking host.
You're talking on a phone
California
right now,
air.
right?
That's what it is.
You're in California for an event, or you're in between 2 events actually, and you're outside using a phone. Is that what we're saying?
Yeah.
The background actually
the key
looks
is with using StreamYard on a phone is 1, use Chrome, and 2, use the app.
Okay.
Tony, you just going back to some of the things that are on your campaign website, which we should put back up on the screen for people to check out. You're talking about the healthcare problem with the spending on healthcare, and it is shocking that the budget of Health and Human Services is bigger than the military budget for all of the size of the military industrial complex. One thing that nobody seems to talk about, because I don't think that the single payer system that you're talking about is really that radical like it used to be in the past, especially I had done some work on healthcare. What came out of World War II was the Hill-Burton standard. So we said so many hospital beds per 1,000 people in the, counties, and it was based on the way we treated in the military. So that's not a bad thing at all. But always people say, well, how do you pay for these things? And what I don't see is anybody coming forward with a Henry Wallace, 50 million jobs program outside of, military. So that's what I want to get at, because we need people in the Congress that actually say, okay, here's how we actually do this. How about you?
Yes.
How do you address those kinds of things with people?
Yeah,
or how will you?
Ideas without a solution don't, or a proposed solution. Anybody, my Uncle Larry at the bar at 2 a.m. can come up with great ideas. It doesn't matter where we're going to see the light of day. Solutions. So I know that my first day in Congress, if I were to immediately begin drafting resolution that would require an audit of the Department of Defense, that would require an audit of the foreign money that we've given to Israel over the last X amount of years, that would require within that audit to find where redundancies, fraud, waste, abuse, or no longer needed capabilities that we continue to spend not millions but billions on, can be return on investment taken out of that, earmarked out of that from the NDAA into the HHS, or subsidized to the healthcare, to where that system's then affordable. Before we even have to talk about raising prices or taxing the rich, or taking away from Peter to pay Paul, let's be more responsible with the budget we already have, to the tune of billions. I know this for a fact, that the Department of Defense, in what it's getting in this $192 billion NDAA now, and $1.7 trillion next year, is littered with pork belly, fraud, waste, abuse, redundancies. As an example, if I am a military capability manager, I'm in the Army, and my job is to go out and find the newest, latest weapon from industry to bring back into the military. Remember, the Army doesn't make their own weapons. We get them from industry. And I find an industry partner that's going to make exactly what we want, the new sharks with lasers. And so I find a company, they tell me, you want sharks with lasers, you have to pay for our R&D, and you have to pay for the first 5 years of production before they even give you one shark with a laser. So I take that to the DOD, and they say, yep, and they put it in the budget. So now I have $5 million dedicated to sharks and lasers for the next 5 years. And then the very next year, the NDA comes out, or the National Military Strategy comes out and says, we don't need sharks with lasers anymore. Well, that money doesn't get reclaimed. It just stays in the NDA and just adds to the budget. And so someone needs to look at it and then say, hey, we don't need sharks with lasers anymore. Where's that 5 million? 5 million. That's what they call, that's budget dust. That's what they'll call it in the DOD, budget dust. I'm like, well, if you sweep up all this budget dust, you can get a few billion out of it and give that back to the American people before you even have to talk about raising taxes 1 penny.
Now, also, I'm thinking too, because again, to get somebody in there, you sort of have to break things up. Some of the news that's been coming out of the Carolinas, well, Fort Bragg in particular, is how Fort Bragg has been a center for, I don't know what, child using
sex rings, drug trafficking, murders,
so
gangs,
exactly,
organized crime.
There's some books about that are out. So what I want to know is that big enough news that people will say, hey, how come these politicians here in the Carolinas haven't been doing anything about it and help to break things open?
Well, I'll tell you, like right here in the Carolinas, the politicians that we have, for example, Brad Knott, who serves in this district, whose 2 of his counties touch Fort Bragg. Fort Bragg has 5 counties that surround it, never served in the military. So when they go to get a briefing from General so-and-so, and General so-and-so tells them everything's, lollipops and butterflies, he's like, oh, great. When I go to these briefings, I'm going to be like, well, General so-and-so, that's bullshit, because I know better, because I've seen that side of it. So I'm willing to look at things, and, we all want, when politicians come and see the military, you have 1 or 2 camps, the zealots and the martyrs. You have those that, no more military, it's bad, and they want to, throw out the baby with the bathwater. And then you got the zealots that are, yes, everything the military does is great. Our men and women uniform are the most fantastic people in the world, and nothing anybody can do in the military is wrong. Well, there's a happy medium between there in terms of, that's not a good policy, General so-and-so. Like when the board nominated, and a lot of people think this was administrative driven, partially, But a lot of the people championing for the name changes 2 years ago were military generals. And look where that got us. We spent over $30 million on changing names on 6 military bases. And then 1 year later, we had to spend $48 million to change them back because it was more expensive to buy the new signs than the ones that we bought just to change them. So
it's ridiculous.
We spent $78 million on flip-flopping between 2 name changes, and not one general officer, 3-star or above in any service, said no. They all said, oh yeah, great. What we need in our military are people that are willing to stand on principle, not on politics.
Do you have time before you go to your event, Tony, to tell us a little bit about how you envision getting money out of politics?
Well, overall,
well, I mean, you mentioned you make your own choice to not accept corporate donations, but do you have any ideas on how to do it structurally?
Well, I think that we should relook our laws and policies that surround receiving foreign PAC money. Because here's the thing about AIPAC that I'll give them credit for when people say AIPAC's bad, AIPAC's bad. What does AIPAC stand for? It's not the American Israeli Political Action Committee. It's the American Israeli Public Affairs Committee. They don't claim to be a political action committee. They claim to be a committee based on educating people about Israel and Zionism and Judaism. They're not a political action committee. Underneath AIPAC, there's multiple PACs that donate therein that don't get aligned under the FAR because AIPAC isn't a PAC. It's
very clever.
It's kind of smart. It's clever.
Yeah.
So,
what about this one, that group that you're aligned with, which I find very interesting? Is the acronym pronounced AZAPAC or AZAPAC?
Yeah, so AZAPAC is endorsing me, but I am not taking money.
Oh, okay, that's different then. Now, do they have a lot of money though? I mean, I think the idea of having opposition to AIPAC is very intriguing to me. Do you know? Are they do they have deep pockets? Are they well positioned to have an impact?
I don't know how deep their pockets go. I know that they endorse me because of my outspokenness against the expansion of Zionism. I am not an anti-Semite. I am not an anti-Jew. I am not, quote unquote, anti-Israel. I am an anti-Zionist because I believe that mindset has now become co-opted by extremists and want to use it in a nefarious way. So they're endorsing me because of my position and views on anti-Zionism. I'm not taking money from them. With their endorsement comes the acknowledgement of the anti-Zionist aspect of it. I don't know how deep their pockets are. I don't know, quote unquote, how much money they have. But
they can advocate for you.
They can certainly absolutely. They can advocate, and maybe there's people that are within their network that want to donate individually. But I'm not going to take money from a committee or a PAC or a lobby or a company or a corporation to where they then pay for my candidacy. I get elected, and now there's this quid pro quo, because that's what happens. And today's AIPAC could be tomorrow's whatever PAC. If I were sitting on the side of it saying, well, I like AIPAC, and it's like, okay, well, you're not supporting AIPAC, but you're supporting this PAC, then what's the difference? You're not against PACs, you're just against this PAC. I'm against taking money from corporations and PACs to fund a campaign, because then that candidate is bought.
It's a tough one. Jeff.
What about subsidizing wine? Have you considered making that a campaign issue?
I think we should go back to the days of the early Roman Empire, where your paycheck, part of your salary was wine.
Is one. Hey, now Jeff, I know you're going to go on the campaign trail now.
All right, that's enough for me. Ryan, should we give him the Winer's endorsement? We are kingmakers. I don't know if you know that, Tony. We are.
I know. That's what Morgan told me. She said if Jeff and Ryan nominate you, it's done. So.
All right. We had Jose Vega on last week. We have very good taste.
That's right.
You do. Jose is a great man.
Well, I hope that a year or so from now, Ryan and I can visit Washington, and we'll walk down the hallway and see you, and then walk down the hallway in the other direction and see Jose. Wouldn't that be great?
Yes. It'll be a hallway. It'll be a hallway of common sense.
There you go.
Well, you're welcome to hang out longer, but I'm just trying to be respectful of your time. You said you had to go. Is that still the case?
I gotta. Actually, I'm right next door over here at the Social Sciences and Technology building to brief or to have a lecture here at UC Irvine. So I've got my professor, whatever you call this thing, sport coat.
You're set up.
Yeah,
Yep. Thanks very much, Anthony,
Blazer.
for joining us and talking about the campaign. I'm sure there's a lot more that you're going to be doing. Maybe we'll get you back on to talk about those things.
Love to. I love the show. I have seen it before.
Good.
And I know that Morgan.
Yeah, Morgan was not happy that she
yeah.
couldn't. Morgan wasn't happy that she couldn't be part of this. So let's have you back when Morgan is here.
That'd be great. Morgan. So I met her through Veterans for Peace.
Yeah.
Because she does work with Veterans for Peace, and that's when I first met her. When she linked me up with Colonel Wilkerson, and she is a wealth of knowledge. Ray McGovern and Wilkerson.
Yeah.
There's I don't know if she's told y'all this, but the video recorded of me in that courtroom, she filmed that.
So, we know that.
I didn't remember
your
that.
accomplice. Yeah. Well, it says it in the video. It says like her Instagram account is like imprinted on it. So
Yeah.
She was in there and she was like kind of sitting there and she was like this. And when that other the warden, I call her, stood up and was like, no phones in here. And Morgan was like, oh, I don't have a phone. And she was like, it was like in her hand. And she was like, I don't have a phone. And the lady was like, it was pretty good.
I forgot the name. What was the name that Josephine kept calling out? Come on, Ken, or
Eddie.
Come on.
Eddie. Eddie. Eddie.
That guy's name was Eddie. Eddie arrested Josie the first time. Her and Eddie she knew Eddie.
Yeah. So has she gotten him to turn, or is he still? They're like frenemies, or whatever.
Yeah, when they arrested us, they were. It's almost like they were doing it almost like against their will. Like they're like, okay, we got to do this, but
they're sympathetic, but they're carrying out their orders.
Yeah.
Carrying out their orders, but they're sympathetic.
They didn't beat you while they were arresting or anything.
No. Well, actually, beforehand, when I went in there, like the two guys were like, "Hey, we know what you're going to do. Can we keep this civil?" And I'm like, "Okay, well,
That's good. So why are you in California? Why are you in California? Why are you not campaigning here in North Carolina?
So I was invited by UC Irvine about 4 months ago to set up to come out here to lecture at their social sciences on behalf, like officially, of the school. So this was pre-campaign.
All right.
So I'm not out here for the campaign, but this is something that I did not want to drop because it's important talking to their grad
What's the
students
topic?
about militarization of aid.
Okay. All right. Just wanted to clear the air on that after you were mocking your opponent for not even living in the district. So, okay.
Well, I live in that. I live in my district, in the heart of it.
I know.
Yep.
All right. Have a good time. That's I used to live out there. The weather's great,
beautiful.
I'm sure.
It is. It's wonderful.
All right. Well,
okay, y'all
we'd
take
love
care.
to have you back anytime, Tony.
Right. Thanks very much.
Absolutely.
Tony.
Thank you.
All right. Take
care, guys.
Take care.
Bye.
All righty then.
Once again, look at that. She's saying they didn't beat you up like Ray McGovern got. What?
You didn't know that? Well, when Ray interrupted
That's
one of those congressional meetings, they roughed him up pretty bad. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
An elderly gentleman. That's not nice at all. All right. Well, in the remaining time, let's talk about the Tony mentioned the Pam Bondi hearing. It was really a shit show
Circus.
On both sides.
Shit show.
Yeah, that's what I just said. And I don't think anybody behaved well. Pam Bondi was just deflecting left and right.
Yeah, well, the problem is a lot of these congressional hearings also, regardless of who's running them, are almost guaranteed to be a circus. You don't get anywhere in those kinds of events. Everybody's just going to posture.
Yeah, they want their little sound bites, and
Absolutely.
It's not even.
And it's going to go on X and Instagram, social media.
Even though she was especially evasive, a part of me is like, I don't want to condemn her all that much because so few of them are sincere in terms of their questions. What's her name? Jazzy Crockett didn't even ask questions. She prefaced it by just saying, Howard, I'm not going to ask questions. You don't answer them anyway. And then she just ranted for her whole time. She's ranting about Don Lemon being arrested and everything. And then, I was talking about this last night and asked the inspector. She was one of the most embarrassing ones. She's so boorish. After her time was over, they went on to the next member of Congress, Representative Schmidt, and he starts talking to Pam Bondi, and then Jazzy starts screaming, even during interrupting her colleague's time. But listen, the one guy who I can't stand, he really annoys me, Jamie Raskin.
Oh, yeah.
I think might have come up with the best idea I've heard yet. But first, let me give you an example of why this guy is an asshole. There's a million examples that one could pick, but check this one out first, and then I'll get to why the thing that he said that I kind of like.
We have only 5 minutes, and so we use our time to ask you specific questions.
How long are you giving me to
Excuse
answer?
me, I'm not yielding to you right now. I'd like that second restored too.
He wants 1 second back. I don't know. It seems like a very hard job. Whoever keeps resetting the clock is like, you know what I mean? They're all screaming, and then the chairman says, "Okay, you get your time. You don't get your time." I don't know. Somebody must. There's obviously somebody has that job, right?
Yeah. What do they call him? The sergeant at arms. He's got the stopwatch, and he's got to turn it back.
No, sergeant at arms, I think, is like a security position. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, you can barely hear with all the screaming. You know, am I supposed to set it back now? That would be a tough job. Anyway, so that's just one example of why he's an asshole. But check this out. He said something, and I'll tell you why after I play the clip, why this resonates with me so much.
You're in law enforcement. We've seen all kinds of evidence of crimes. And when we go over to the Department of Justice for the 4 computers for every member of Congress, we see more evidence of crimes. Will you create a joint task force of the Department of Justice and governors and state attorney generals and district attorneys across the country to investigate the crimes that have taken place against these victims and more than 1,000 like them? The DOJ is not doing its job. Will you create a task force with state and local law enforcement to make that happen?
Gentlelady can respond. She wants to.
So quick.
Thank you,
So
Chairman.
quick.
He called Chase Mulligan a wild goose chase and didn't even know who he was. He is a defendant in your own
Chairman,
district who
Mr.
preyed
Chairman.
on girls.
Mr.
ages
Chairman.
15
Well, you know
to
what? If he were part of the
in
Epstein
social
investigation, you wouldn't
media
do anything
and
about it.
online chat rooms.
I mean, there's evasiveness that's smooth, and then there's what she did. That is not even smooth. But let me tell you why I like what he said. I can't believe more people don't realize this. Most of the alleged crimes that occurred are state offenses, not federal offenses. So if you're sincere about holding the perpetrators accountable, and you're not an idiot.
She's not the person to talk to.
I'm not talking about her. Yeah, I'm talking about everybody who's clamoring. Yeah. So everybody who's acting like they're so concerned about sticking up for the victims and they really want to do something about it, and they're not playing politics. If they were really sincere and well-informed, they'd realize that these are state offenses, and they should be clamoring to the state authorities and the local authorities because, I mean, having sex with a minor is a very serious offense, but it's not a federal crime. The only federal crime is trafficking. And there can't be very many people who are actually involved with Epstein and trafficking. He was convicted. Ghislaine Maxwell was convicted. There's either nobody or just one or two others, maybe. Everything else with the sex with the minors stuff is state crimes. So, but on the other hand, the feds have all this evidence. So that's why I think what he said might be the best idea, to have a task force, cooperation between the feds and the local authorities, to, if you really want something to be done. What do you think?
That would be the corollary to what is ICE was supposed to be doing, is federal and local dealing with the immigration thing. So in the same way, that is kind of how you would imagine it would be done. I'm wondering, though, if they're going to do that. That's a good thing. The way that this looks internationally, you do see that it's starting to take down governments internationally, or parts of governments.
Yeah, somebody said that to me on X. Now, these are people who, the people from other countries traveled here, and so their reputations are ruined, but they don't have Somebody said like they're being prosecuted in other countries too.
I
Do you
don't know.
anything about that?
I don't know. I mean, you have people stepping down, right? So this,
Yeah,
so this
yeah.
is
The reputations are being ruined.
their reputations are being ruined. Andrew Mountbatten, Wes Windsor, Sarah Ferguson, Keir Starmer, Peter Mandelson, his number two. You know, I mean, people are interested in seeing the political class take a beating, I think, more than anything else. And there is sort of a shotgun approach. I mean, for example, even here what JMM says, I'm not picking on you, but it's an example. You know, Dershowitz, I don't even know anything about what his involvement was other than being like a lawyer. I'm just saying I don't know. I'm not saying anything.
Well, he represented Epstein, and he was a friend of it. Yeah, and he was a friend.
Yeah, or what's his name?
But this is just a very emotional response about jail that bastard. You know, but can you present what the case should be?
I don't
what's
even
the
know.
evidence?
I'm saying I don't even know. There's so much
No,
noise.
I'm talking to
about,
JMM. I'm talking to JMM.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm not
idea?
even expecting her to. I'm just saying everybody is screaming and yelling. Pam Bondi said in another one of these things, she said, you know, Biden had all of this documentation for years and years, and nobody ever brought anything up about this.
Yeah.
So what you have, I mean, if something isn't done, there's the one side, then people just get more withdrawn and become less political. Like I was saying earlier, you know, they're going to say, well, I'm checking out, I'm going to go watch the Super Bowl, or it's going to be like in the UK where all of the top people start falling, you know, and we get something done. I don't know otherwise.
Yeah. But the thing about that is, I know that people really feel, oh, these people deserve it. But what troubles me is the stench of McCarthyism that's permeating the situation. It's not only do I not think it's the proper role of law enforcement agencies, it in fact is not the role of law enforcement agencies usually to be releasing information that just harms people's reputation when there's no criminal charges against them. So, I mean, I don't see what the guiding principle is as to when you make these exceptions.
Well, wait a second. Are you referring to the Epstein Transparency Act?
And the whole idea of releasing the Epstein files, right?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, that's
it would be one thing if it was a sincere, serious desire to focus on real prosecutable crimes. But what I'm seeing is not so much that, and a lot more of just
chaos.
Smearing people, and smearing people's reputations. And again, I understand where people say, they deserve it, but where do you draw the line? It's not really what law enforcement agencies are supposed to do.
Yeah, I mean, no, I think, I was talking with Larry Johnson last week, and he said that there are all kinds of policy things that are now just being ignored because this is now becoming the focus.
Yeah, and the manpowers they put into going through millions and millions of these files. I mean, these people are supposed to be fighting crime, and I don't know, is this fighting crime or is this just setting people up to be smeared?
See, it's the difficult thing because it's like you watch something on television, right? And you think that that's crime fighting.
Well,
but I don't. I mean, if your buddy, if our buddy Greg were here, maybe he would say something about, crime fighting is actually very boring. You're going through lots of documents. You're, finding things.
Yeah.
It's not this kind of a circus act.
All right, so we're talking about the insincerity of politicians. So let me play a Ro Khanna clip, and I want to see if you, Ryan, can detect the hypocrisy here.
Okay.
All right.
But why do you think the DOJ isn't doing anything? Because shouldn't they be the ones that are indicting people?
They should.
Who have they indicted?
They haven't indicted a single person.
Really?
So, post Epstein, they said, oh, he's a dead guy and let's move on. They have not released the names of the co-conspirators who they should have indicted. They have not released the names of the people they should have prosecuted. And let alone, they've done nothing to investigate these people. And I don't know why. Like they say, okay, it doesn't rise to a criminal level. Well, how do you know if you haven't investigated it? Have you called these people in and have you asked them questions about where they were? What did they do? What did they know? I don't think you have.
I know
got
the answer. I
Go
know
ahead.
the answer.
Give it to us. Give it
I
to us.
I think he's on the House Committee on Oversight and Accountability, and that's the committee that does the investigations.
Well,
in
that may be a
Congress.
fair point, but that's not what I noticed in this. What I noticed in this is that he, at the end of it, says, well, how do they know unless they investigate, right? They got to investigate to know. But right before that, he said these people should be prosecuted. Well, how does he know? That's watch it again. He's saying that they should be prosecuted, and then
I think the DOJ isn't doing anything because shouldn't they be the ones that are indicting people?
They should. They should.
Who have they indicted?
DOJ.
They haven't indicted a single person.
Really?
So, post Epstein, they said, "Oh, he's a dead guy, and let's move on." They have not released the names of the co-conspirators who they should have indicted. They have not released the names of the people they should have prosecuted.
right.
And let alone they've done nothing to investigate these people. And I don't know why. Like they say, okay, there's no.
You hear him? He's saying they should have prosecuted him. They should indict him. And then after that, he says, well, how do they know that they're innocent until they investigate? Now, with the exception of these co-conspirators, I mean, I think people were listed as co-conspirators and then they weren't. I don't know. There possibly could be somebody who in some way was involved in trafficking. And that would be, like I said before, the only federal offense. But everything else that people are talking about is a state crime.
Yeah. It doesn't seem like actually anything, because I'm looking at people's comments, right? If you look at this comment here, he's saying it's a satanic case and says a few things about that there. And then he says, JMM says, unredact everybody but the victims and arrest all of the assholes who rape children. I mean, okay, I am for that, but what you're saying that I don't think they understand is that's a state crime.
Right. They're yelling at us. They're yelling at us. They're yelling at Pam Bondi. Why don't you yell at the local authorities?
So, and Raskin's point is Pam Bondi, what she can do with the FBI is actually convene a joint task force to investigate everything. So it's not to say that any of these claims are
so these I'm getting
wrong.
heckled here because I'm being heckled here because I'm being too legalistic. But here I am endorsing the one thing that would actually be effective. So you're so proud of yourself for being more outraged than I am. I'm just getting to the solution, and you aren't. So don't mock me because my legalistic analysis might lead to the results that you want. I accept your apology. Be kind, Star. I accept the apology you're thinking about giving to me. All right, we got
No. Hold on a second. He doesn't get it. It unfortunately, it's the question of how you execute the actual investigation.
Yeah.
Being outraged is fine and legitimate, and there is. But the issue
What's so hard to understand? It's like saying that you want the cashier at Home Depot to arrest him and thinking that's a great thing to say because the crime is so bad. Well, most people would understand, no, you don't ask the cashier at Home Depot to do it. Well, if you understand that you don't ask the cashier at Home Depot to do it, then you should also understand you don't ask federal agents to arrest people for local crimes.
But see, August 17th, right? You're saying you're sure there was a lot of interstate trafficking. Then that has to be investigated. And who does those investigations?
A lot, maybe a lot of trafficking, but not a lot of people doing it. Right? You don't think that Bill Gates was like running a trafficking operation with Epstein. Bill Gates might have flown to wherever and enjoyed the fruits of this decadent lifestyle, but that's not the same thing as Bill Gates.
Yeah, I mean,
trafficking.
it could be that Epstein had some of his staff do it, but that still has to be.
Yeah,
that still has to be investigated, and nobody has started that investigation that we know of.
I could see that people booked flights knowing what it was for, something like that.
Yeah.
So That's.
I mean, there have been various cases like at Offutt Air Force Base in, I think it was Nebraska or North Dakota, actually is where it is, where military aircraft brought children in. I just mentioned here with our friend Anthony, Fort Bragg. He started going on about how Fort Bragg is a major focal point for child rape and so that would have to be investigated. That seems to be that's something the military, the Congress, somewhere like that. But there definitely has to be investigations opened. We don't seem to see any of that happening yet.
All right, let's take a look at one of the big moments yesterday that got a lot of attention online on Facebook and X and everywhere.
Oh no! You're not going to show my Instagram, are you?
No, I'm talking about where Ted Lieu, one of the dumbest members of Congress, supposedly caught Pam Bondi committing perjury, because now all these dopey Democrat groups are throwing this all over the internet, saying, gotcha. Let's watch this.
There is no evidence that Donald Trump has committed a crime. Everyone knows that. This has been the most transparent presidency. He's the one that asked that those files.
I'm going to claim my time. I got your answer. You said there's no evidence.
Trump asked
Mr. Chairman, please stop the clock.
Stop the clock. The legislation. This is
time.
ridiculous.
Time belongs to the gentleman from California.
Okay. I'm going to put up another document from a witness who called the FBI's National Threat Operations Center, because I believe you just lied under oath. There is ample evidence in the Epstein file.
Don't you ever accuse me of a crime.
I believe you just lied under oath. And this is all on videotape. You said there's no evidence of a crime. I'm showing you, here is a witness statement who called into the FBI's Threat Operations Center.
Somebody shoot me. I can't believe how idiotic people are to believe that this is perjury. Obviously, what she meant was there's nothing that's incriminating evidence, in her opinion, that amounts to a prosecutable crime. That is
her opinion.
Yes.
That's the key point.
Opinion, right. I can't stand that so many people actually fall for something so stupid. If it's in the Epstein files and it's been released to everybody, why would you have to ask her to say whether or not there's anything in there? Like, you don't even need her to say that. Well, we know it's in there, right? It's been released.
Therefore, it can't be. There's
no need to ask. So therefore, that's not the context of his question, right?
See, the problem is that it's such a circus. It's such a circus. You can't. You don't know what's true. You don't know what's a lie. You don't know what's real. What's not real. You don't know how much of what's in the Epstein files is just junk that's just thrown in there.
Yeah. There's millions and millions of documents. It's like quicksand. It never ends.
Meanwhile, we still have a situation where silver has taken a nosedive. Gold was going down, came back up. Crypto, took a nosedive. You've got what Scott was talking about last night about the plans to now double the number of nuclear warheads, but we can't even afford to do that. I mean, there's literally nothing that we can afford to do for ourselves. I like when people like Anthony Aguilar come on and they talk about all these ideas, but it is the case that we are so burdened by all this noise, we don't even get to talk about how do we make those things happen. So we never get those things at all.
Well, he's big on redirecting war money to domestic infrastructure. And, unfortunately, his time was limited, but we should.
Yeah, but he also talked about healthcare, because healthcare is bigger cost than even the military. And that's something Bobby Kennedy has talked about, too. That whole thing with the pharma, big pharma and so forth.
Yeah. Well, easier said than done, but he seems like the kind of guy that might be willing to actually crunch the numbers and try to turn it into a reality.
No, we need like triple the number of people running for Congress who are just regular people who think about these things, who've done something in their life, as opposed to, however people get selected through, these funds and so forth, political action committees and AIPAC.
Well, one by one, we'll have all the good candidates on the Whiners. So we're doing our part.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. There are some others I've seen that are running as well.
All right, my friend, should we call it a night?
Yeah, I'm losing my voice soon here, so we better.
Yeah, you are under the weather, but I'm your doctor now. I recommended to Ryan the allergy medication that has saved my life. And when I heard his symptoms are somewhat similar to mine, I said, give this a try, talk to your doctor. And today is the very first day you are trying what I essentially prescribed.
You prescribed it. I told my doctor, I said, Jeff said, and he said, well, that's pretty good.
All right. Well, one day isn't enough of a test, but maybe in a couple of weeks we can check in on.
I'm going to put some whiskey in my tea, and that should help. Make it a hot toddy or something like that.
All right. I won't discourage that at all.
Okay.
All right, Ryan, thanks. And thanks to our beloved audience and whoever was mocking me for being too legalistic. Again, I accept your apology.
He sent you a heart. He sent you a thumbs up, a handshake, and a pray hand. Thanks.
All right. Yes, I am solution oriented. All righty. Take care, everybody. Good night.
Good night.